So in addition to being here on whatever day this is, what's also really special about today for me is it wasn't even because of COVID that I hadn't performed in a really long time. A lot of stuff going on kind of dampened my creative spirit, and so to be performing for the first time back in my hometown in something like 8-9 years is really beautiful. So thank y'all for being here with me. Um, let's get into it. I only brought a few copies because the last time I brought a whole like gang of copies to something, no one bought a book, and so I was like, gosh, that was a lot to carry around. So then today I only brought a few, and so if you don't get one, let me know, and I can let you know where to get it. That's not from me. Um, this poem's called Compromise. Compromise is saying, I will give this up for you, and I will give this up for you in return, because the joy is in the giving. Knowing this, I no longer wonder at the self-indulgent ignorance white men carry with them like badges, if not of honor, then of steadfast and toxic mediocrity. So I don't crave white skin or its parasitic privileges. My soul is no longer guided by whiteness. I will not give up this penny-cheeked profile, this mighty melancholy in my bones, this libation that is my sweat and tears. Just remember, they demanded this phoenix, rising from our former hopes and handshakes with crimson wing and razored beak, when we were robbed of ourselves in exchange for lost limbs and legacies, when we compromised our homes, nations, gods for shanty towns, police states, crumbling shoebox sanctuaries, when we traded our children, their buoyant self-image and melodic slang for lip fillers on porcelain teens, butchering habitual B and viral videos. I'm just saying. With all this compromise, you think our very existence would be pure joy, thick and amber honey sweet. Instead, we gave muted suits and slick scalps in exchange for ruby woo map lines and canine teeth to the calf. When we gave every mood, sermon, and music, they gave us bullets to torso, to skull, to sheetrock above one's sleeping, swollen belly. Compromise with white supremacy has only ever come with the promise of more loss. There is no balancing this ledger laden with our suffering. So I will no longer take responsibility for the fact a white man's imagination is a mausoleum, only capable of seeing a nation of deceased playgrounds in my eyes. I won't give up anything else when history and yesterday prove compromise is a word white men use to dream themselves anew and give up nothing in return. So I have a poem that has a whole lot of cursing. I'm going to skip that one for now. We might come back to it. There's lots of babies and elders in the vicinity, and while I think that cursing is for everyone, not everybody agrees, and I try to have respect for that. So we'll come back to that one. We'll see what happens. I might just apologize to the elders and the babies. This poem is called "On Being a Survivor." It was first published in the Anna, which is open for submissions right now. It is founded by a very dear colleague of mine at San Francisco State University, where I am currently getting an MFA in creative writing. Thank you. So please, if you're a poet, if you're interested in publishing, check out the Anna Literary Journal. They also take artwork, fiction, things like that. It's a very small journal. Please support small journals. We all want to see our stuff in the big leagues, or many of us do. I do. But support these small literary journals. So this piece was first published in the Anna. On Being a Survivor. All my attackers must be R. Kelly's and Bill Cosby's, pedophiles or perverts, for me to have half a chance at being taken seriously. But the friend who trails his hand too far down my back, the lover who chooses to bury my no beneath all the yes that came before it, the boy I called myself falling for who played bass in church. None of them are monsters. Yet memories of them still hide beneath my bed, breath hot with denial, whispering doubt into my dreams, without being pinned down, without being drugged, without being underage, without dark alleys and strangers with weapons. And even with any of these, my story has no teeth. nothing with which to attach itself to righteous outrage. We are never victims. Even when there is a fight and DNA under fingernails, even when there's video and scars, even when the world becomes the dumpster behind which you leave our bodies contorted and trembling, our stories are little more than think piece fertilizer, growing clicks and traffic, but changing nothing about how we feel forced to sleep fully clothed with lights on, feel forced to never be alone, even when solitude would nourish us, feel forced to keep our stories buried out of the blazing rays of unrighteous indignation. For multitudes, there is a place between monster and human where too many travel. A Bermuda Triangle where accountability and remorse vanish in the swirling, turbulent waters of patriarchal violence. Instead of telling the truth, instead of shouting our stories into the storm to be swallowed in self-righteous solidarity, we watch as monuments and murals, accolades, and opportunities are heaped upon these beings. Instead of grieve, we survive. And since we're talking about better ancestors, I just want to call out that within that poem, in the section where I'm talking about feeling forced to never be alone, even when solitude would nourish us, that's a direct connection to June Jordan's poem About My Rights, which is one of my favorite pieces. I have lines tattooed on my leg that I have to see every single day to remind me that I am not wrong and wrong is not my name. So if you haven't somehow come across June Jordan's poem About My Rights, please look it up. You can find video of her reading it herself. Read it over and over and over again. Remind yourself that we did not. That's really fucking dope. And, whoa. I don't experience envy a whole lot, but wow. Yeah, I can be honest about that. I am jealous. To have only had June Jordan as a professor. Wow. Okay. Whew. I just really hope you know how blessed you are. Of course you do. But yes, it's a great poem in these times to remind ourselves that we did not set shit up like this. You know, I'm going to apologize to the elders and the babies. Fuck the police. Their badges, their guns, their Ray-Bans, their boots, their grins. Fuck the politicians. Fuck the government at every level, all three branches of this cursed fig tree. Fuck the blustering about draining the swamp. Fill it. Flood DC's now flavorless streets until every Volvo and S-Class rests rusting beneath the Potomac. Fuck the stock market. Fuck more expensive money made from codes instead of cotton or coin. Fuck money, period. Fuck how it's treated as deity, determining daily who gets to eat, who gets to have a home, who gets to garden, who gets to have clean water and earth beneath their toes. Fuck asking for permission to breathe. Fuck the schools. Fuck the superintendents. Fuck the standardized tests and the scantrons they wrote in on. Fuck straight rows, blank walls, silenced children. Fuck puppet pedagogies. Fuck academic coaches and performance reviews. Fuck your principal doing the Dougie at a school assembly celebrating the perfect attendance and high GPAs of children better adjusted to our genocide than their peers. Fuck white teachers in Deep East Oakland, Chicago or DC Southside, in rural black communities, anywhere at all in New Orleans. Fuck white teachers, including the ones with brown skin, making themselves martyr for student loan forgiveness. Do I really need to say fuck student loans? Fuck white people and their adjacents who still think I need to first stop and confirm they are in fact here to slit my throat and make me mop my own blood for minimum wage before decking them in the mouth, before raising strip malls, before screaming. But also fuck giving up. Fuck losing sleep or working alone or limiting your imagination. Fuck hopelessness. Fuck silencing your rage or your grief or your joy. Most of all, fuck losing. We have a duty to win. Okay. I'm going to end on joy. This is a piece I wrote for my now 5-year-old. And I struggled for a long time to write a poem about my child because, like, how do you write a poem about a star? She's just incredible and has taught me a lot in just 5 short years. And what kind of cracked it open for me was I heard a poet read and give this kind of prompt of taking whatever subject you're writing about and calling it the poem or this poem. So whatever you're writing about, refer to it as this poem. And something about that prompt just broke it open for me. So this poem's for my daughter. It's called Birthright. I tired of writing poems for white people, so I gave birth to one they can't read. A copper skin poem revised for 37 weeks and 5 days. A poem with my exuberance wound helix around each curl, laughing loud toward the sky. A poem with my resistance etched into a tiny furrowed brow. I gave birth to a poem with my rage alchemized into a gilded voice, never backing down, never silent on command. A poem with my hope sewn carefully to its sternum, a little patchwork yet certain. All the same, I gave birth to a poem that doesn't know any words but synonyms for love and freedom. A poem that careens down sidewalks, ecstatic shrieks, prayers laid at the highest altar. This poem's eyelids are lined with the silk of my faith. This poem is invincible. Still, one day, though I gave birth to this poem, this people's poem, I know someone will try to read her anyway. Failing, they will demand I translate, but the poem I birthed was never meant for their understanding. For between the lines of this poem's lashes, I placed a single dream, a future that is this poem's and this poem's alone to write. Thank you.